Broadcasting live from the rugged highlands on the plain of Tarkir, this is Tap Tap Concede. Welcome everybody to Tap Tap Concede, GP Vancouver Report.
Woo!
I'm Graham, I'm here, and with me is...
Cameron.
Kathleen.
And Jer.
Yeah, and Paul is over on engineering, and
also featured some other people doing tapping, but not tapping of cards.
no, we have some roofers actually reconstructing the roof of the moon base,
Making a very special guest appearance.
which on a moon base is really important. It's 5:45 p.m. and they're still going hard at it. Maybe in the next 15 minutes they'll go home. Who knows? They really keen to work.
The sun is going down.
That's true. So. Presumably.
I don't know how long a roofist works for.
I don't know either. We tried to wait until later in the day, but you may still hear some bangs and thumps and everything. So that's what that is. We were at GP Vancouver over the weekend, and we're going to tell you all about it. But first, we're going to rip our way through a crack-a-pack.
And I'd just like to say, while we're rolling the die, thank you to everybody who brought us packs for the crack-a-pack at GP Vancouver. We got, I think... 3?
3 or 4, I think.
3 or 4. Wow.
Also
thank
wanted
you guys
to
so much.
thank Peter Gillette
for this pack of Vision Futura that we opened a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But because all of us were not normal tap people, we did not remember to look for your name. So very sorry, but give you a shout out now because that was an awesome pack.
Yeah, the full art Corsair de Nessian or whatever foil is beautiful.
Very nice. Very nice.
All right, Cam, what do we got? 20!
20!
We finally rolled a 20. We finally get to open the big 20, which is
Yay,
at the
go
very
Cam.
bottom. It's been here for months and months and months.
It's been here for a year, Graham.
I know.
It's been here. Actually, no, that's been... Graham, that has been in the stack since we started Tap Tap Concede.
Oh, I think it has, actually.
Yep.
Well, maybe we shouldn't open it.
No, we're opening
why
it.
wouldn't we?
15 card premium all foil booster from Shards of Alara block. They only did this once.
How
I
much
don't
are
think they sold well.
How much are these things
I
now?
don't know. So it's
Probably a lot.
Within this booster, you'll discover 15 premium foil cards gathered from the combined might of Shards of Alara, Conflux, and Alara Reborn. If I recall correctly, I think we actually got this from our friends Mark and Charisse. Mark of Mojang, Mark IRL online. I believe this was from them. I could be wrong, but let's finally...
So I don't recall the history of these because they were right before we started, but
Yeah, I
they
don't
were
know either.
they released the whole Alara block, and then these were sort of a best of premium product that they wanted to try out.
Well, they weren't even best of. It wasn't curated. You could get any card in the block.
Oh, really?
Just you will
Yeah,
get it in
it's
foil.
Collect all 539 cards in the Shards of
Crazy.
Alara block in foil. Or you could not, because that would be
I wonder if
ridiculous.
this is the result of some sort of mistake where they accidentally ordered way too many foils.
I feel like it was I feel like it was a failed experiment.
Yeah.
If nothing else.
Is it a regular Alara wrapper behind that angel-y cutout?
No, it's a Shards of Alara block 15 card foil premium thing.
Oh, wow.
Right, so they're all foils. All right. So first up, Lightning Talons. Boy, that looks horrifying. 2 and a red. Enchanted creature gets +3/+0 and first strike. This was reprinted more recently, wasn't it?
I am not entirely sure, but that card seems pretty good, actually.
It was an M14.
It was, yes.
That card's really hard to deal with.
Yeah.
I mean,
First
I
strike.
mean, any aura you're putting it up to.
I mean, I feel like this card would have been worse when Alara came out, but it's probably better now.
right. If this was reprinted in a modern set, well, it was an M14. I think it's better when removal is worse.
Oh, that's gorgeous. A Jund Panorama.
Ooh.
Yes, which is, so they had 5 panoramas, 1 for each shard. You tap their land, you tap to add 1 colorless, or for this one, 1 colorless and tap and sacrifice Jund Panorama to search your library for a basic swamp, mountain, or forest, the 3 lands in Jund, and put it into play tapped and shuffle your library. So some fixing. These went not as much as the actual tri-lands, but these fixing was very important in Shards of Alara draft, as I recall hearing. I never played it myself. Speaking of fixing, Field Mist Border Post. The border posts are fun too. I quite like these in Commander. They're colored artifacts. So this is an artifact for 1 white blue. You may pay 1 colorless and return a basic land you control to its owner's hand rather than pay that mana cost. It comes into play tapped, and it taps for white or blue.
So these look like an attempt to sort of kind of fix the Karoo lands from Ravnica, which were really powerful. And so these are sort of that, but, not quite as good.
I mean, this is a fine turn, too.
Yeah.
In like I said, in Commander, you can play your first land, and then next turn you float a colorless, tap it, and then return.
Yeah, but it
and
isn't
bring
as
it
good
back.
as the Karoo lands. Why are they called Karoo lands?
They're based on their function is based on a cycle of lands from Mirage. One of which, I guess, the most played of which was Karoo.
I'm pretty sure. I didn't even think it was a cycle. I thought it was just Karoo.
No, I think
did that.
I think there were 5 of them. I could be wrong about that. But
I think the other lands did. I think there might have been a cycle of lands, but they all did different stuff. But the Karoo one is
I think
gives you 2 planes.
I
Or
think you might be correct.
White
How do you spell
green?
Karoo, Jared?
Karoo, I think.
Yeah, Karoo. Karoo. There it is.
There it is.
Yeah. And the wording is pretty similar, right? It's you have to return a land.
Yeah, I think that Karoo is worse in that the land comes into play you can only return an untapped land. Yeah, and there was I'm almost entirely sure there was a cycle of these. I think there's like Active Volcano might be one of them. I think that's the red one. Could be wrong about that. No, different one. I think there is one that is a volcano that is the red one, but.
All right. Next up in this pack of foils, Demonic Dread. It's 1 and a black and a red. For a sorcery with Cascade, target creature can't block this turn.
That's a lot for a target creature can't block this turn.
You're hoping
But I mean, it does have Cascade.
But it has Cascade.
What are you hoping to cascade into at
Lightning Bolt.
2 mana?
Bloodbraid Elf.
Anything? Like,
Yeah, I guess anything for free is still good. What's up, Paul?
That is indeed. So Dormant Volcano.
is
not
the
the red
active
one.
one. I got the wrong volcano.
Yeah.
Were they originally printed in the same set?
This one was originally from Visions.
And I think that sounds correct for Karoo, too. Maybe not Mirage, so maybe Mirage
For some reason, I
Block.
had it in my head that Karoo was earlier, and then they fleshed out the cycle. I don't know. I could be wrong. Magic has a.
I think Karoo is just the...
Karoo is also Visions.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just
Okay,
the
I
only
guess it
one
was a
that
cycle.
saw, like, tournament play. So,
Also, you can't be like, the dormant volcano lands from Ravnica.
yeah.
Next up in this pack, though, Cavern Thoctor. It's a 5/5 for 5 and a green. And for 1 and a red, Cavern Thoctor gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So it's a 5/5 with fire breathing for 6. But bad fire breathing.
Yeah, these days this wouldn't be exciting, but like 5/5 for 6 at that point I think is completely playable without the ability. 5/5 for 6 I'll play now most times.
Also, there was one of the shard, quote, abilities. One of the shard, keywords in shards was if you control a creature with power 5 or greater.
Yeah.
Ferocious in cons is a much better sweet spot. 4 power is much, much better. The 5 power greater thing is challenging.
It's hard to hit.
Well, because they're all so expensive.
Yeah, you're looking at a pretty small subclass of creatures that get up to 5 power, right?
Yeah.
But that's why you have auras that are like +3/+0.
Yeah.
How about this guy, Ridge Ranit? It's a 6/4 for 5 red, and that's it. But it has cycling for 2 colorless, so you can pay 2 colorless, discard it, and draw a card if you
I
don't
mean,
want.
that's good if you pick that up and you're like, I'm not going to be able to resolve this for a long time. Cycling is not bad.
I mean, like cycling sort of fills the same role as morph. It color fixes and it fixes your curve. I think that card is.
I think Morph is better.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but I think that they serve the same purpose. So like I think that card is fine.
Yeah, I mean, and like cycling was in this block because if it's a tricolor block, you're gonna run into mana problems. So at least if you draw something like this and you're like, I don't even have a single mountain. This is gonna be sitting in my hand like a plank forever. At least you can pitch it to draw a card.
Yep. There was also a cycle of cards that were the something Outlander. This is the Vidalcan Outlander, and it's a white and a blue for a 2/2, and this one has protection from red.
I think we need to expect more from our cards. This is like a Silver Knight, but not as good.
Yeah, well, so it's each of the Outlanders, if I recall correctly, they were 2 colorless they were 2 colored mana, 2 ally colors for 2/2s that had protection from those 2 colors enemy.
Yeah.
Which I believe was correct. So, But this guy's Vidalcan, so he's also an artifact for fun. This Leotau is so wild.
Rawr.
It's the wild Leotau. It's a 5/4 for 2 green. A 5/4 for 4 mana.
That's good.
That's good. But at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice it unless you pay a green. So it's not cumulative. It is just an extra green mana every turn. To have a 5/4 on turn 4? I mean, in draft, this seems good.
Yeah, this seems generally fine. This kind of card they don't print very much anymore. I can think of actually only one other card that had an upkeep cost like this recently, and that was that Ghost from Innistrad.
Oh yeah,
Or was it the second Innistrad?
It was from.
It was even Avacyn Restored. Yeah, Fettergeist.
yeah. That guy was really cool.
Yeah, but like they don't do upkeep costs very much anymore.
No, I had one of my favorite recorded draft moments ever involved a Fettergeist. It's one of the old. It's on this very YouTube channel. If you're watching the video, it's one of the old videos I recorded, just me drafting at home, doing Avacyn Restored, and it was the 3.5 minutes for game 3, and I was like, screw it, we're boarding in favorable wins, let's go. And Fettergeist and some other flyer or something just got there.
I would always forget that he had flying because he didn't look like he was flying in his art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a problem. How about a Rock's Bodyguard? It is a 2/3 Rhino Monk Soldier for 3 green white. A 2/3 for 5, but wait. When Rock's Bodyguard comes into play, you gain 3 life. Fine.
Okay.
Also, it has Exalted.
Oh.
Exalted's fun.
This goes in the Exalted Commander deck.
What is I don't know why, but rhinos in Magic seem to have this life gain sub-theme.
Yeah.
There was the Rock's Faith Mender in a core set a couple years ago that had lifelink and gained you life off
Wasn't
stuff.
there one in
I mean, Siege Rhino
Siege Rhino
most
gained you
recently,
life,
of course.
yeah, wasn't there one in
That's a
last
strange noise.
block of RTR Dragon's Maze? Wasn't there a rhino in there
I think so.
that also had some sort of other
Probably.
thing?
What's up, Paul?
Is it just me, or is he wearing a diaper?
I mean, Paul, we can't judge.
I mean, just because he might have occasional incontinence problems doesn't mean he's still not a good creature.
He's not still a good Rhino Monk Soldier, which is a sweet creature
I think
type.
it might be a loincloth.
Yeah, I think
Depends
it's a
don't let you
loincloth.
down. Depends don't let you down. Thanks, roofers. They agree. They're pounding an agreement.
Here's another one of the border posts. This is the Vanefire border post, which is 1 black-red. Like we said before, you pay 1, return a basic land you control. It comes in tapped and taps for red or black. So that's all that. All right, now we're into the uncommons. This one's fun. Dragon's Herald. It is a 1/1 Goblin Shaman for a single red mana. For 2 and a red and tap it. Sacrifice a black creature, a red creature, and a green creature.
I mean, he can be one of the...
He can. Search your library for a card named Hellkite Overlord and put it into play, then shuffle your library.
Yep.
I feel like a lot of people during a Lara draft were like, I'll live the dream one day.
I feel like this was the last pick from a lot of packs.
The flavor text, the penultimate step of the ritual involves bathing in a delicious glaze.
I mean, how awesome is that to have
goblin
a fantastic bomb that there's also a bunch of tutors that only you want for your bomb that are going to be going around super late in the packs.
Yeah, I guess.
Like if you first pick Slam Hellkite Overlord, you're like, yes, we're doing this.
Sure.
Unless there's something even remotely good in the pack, I'm taking the Dragon's Herald Goblin.
So you finally get out your 5-power creature, and then someone tries to kill it. But luckily, you have a different other 5-power creature to help you. It's the Vagrant Plow Beasts.
Is that a 7-drop?
Yeah, 6/6 for 5 green white, and they have an ability that for a single colorless mana, so at least it's cheap and easy to use.
After you paid 7 for it, it better bloody well better be
You can
cheap.
regenerate target creature with power 5 or greater.
See, this card seems super hard to deal with.
Actually,
Yeah.
that seems amazingly
Like,
good.
Because it can regenerate itself.
Yeah, if you can ever get this into play and have 1 mana up, then your opponent is pretty screwed.
Oh yeah, you just start making ridiculous attacks, right? Because what are they going to do, right?
Not chump block, I guess.
Oh, it's so good.
Drastic Revelation is 2 blue, black, red, 2 and the complete Grixis for a sorcery. Discard your hand, draw 7 cards, then discard 3 cards at random. Cam, how do you feel about this?
curious.
Right?
This seems super cool with Waste Not.
Discard your hand.
Yeah.
Draw 7.
Well, no,
and then discard 3 at
I
random.
like that each clause corresponds to each of the 3 colors.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
discard your hand is black, draw 7 is blue, and then discard 3 at random is red.
Waste Not is
Yeah.
opponents only, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
too bad.
So
The thing is, the discarding 3 at random doesn't matter, right? It's discard your hand and draw 4 cards.
Right.
yeah.
Because they're going to be random what you draw anyway, because that's how it works. So that's only really upside because it's random, so it doesn't
And then,
matter.
like, as long as you have like 1 land in your hand or nothing, right?
Yeah.
Does this fail if you have nothing to
No.
discard?
No.
So there you go.
You feel pretty good if you top deck this.
Yeah.
After.
It's draw 4 cards for 5 mana.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, it's hard to cast, but presumably when you want to play this late game, you'll have that available to you.
Yeah.
And like maybe the board's all bogged out because both of you have like huge
Vagrant
5/5s.
Plow Beasts.
I don't know. Vagrant Plow Beast looks pretty good.
Oh, wow.
We got there. We got there.
Really?
Cruel ultimatum.
This was a
What?
thing.
Cruel ultimatum in foil. It is a sorcery for blue, blue, black, black, black,
Jesus.
red, red.
Whoa. Can it be harder to cast?
Target opponent sacrifices a creature, discards 3 cards, then loses 5 life. You return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand, draw 3 cards, and gain 5 life.
Oh,
Yep.
what a bomb.
Literally, there is a guy in Seattle. He's known in the local Magic community. His name is Zame. His license plate is UUBBBRR.
For cruel
Yeah.
old maidens.
Yes.
Wow.
It's his favorite card of all time.
That's really funny.
Flavor text, there is always a greater power. There's 2 more cards here. What is this?
Cruel Control was a thing, too.
Oh, it's a rules tip for Cascade. And a forest.
That's super
Cruel
exciting.
ultimatum.
Get a sleeve.
That's one of the most exciting cards in the set, really.
Yeah,
like it's
for sure.
Cruel
So there were ultimatums in all 5 shards, but Cruel Ultimatum was like the big one.
Right, because in Grixis, you would be playing the control deck that wants to play around resolving a 7 CMC bomb,
Yeah.
right? That stabilizes you, blows up your opponent, ruins their board state, and fills your hand.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. So
It does it all.
I don't think anyone cast anything quite that spicy this past weekend,
No.
but we still had a lot of fun. It was GP Vancouver.
Yay.
We went over some of us went over on Thursday night because we were filming an episode of Friday Nights, which you'll see very soon, if you haven't already, on most of the Friday and then the Saturday morning. But then we got into the actual playing Magic. So
Which was sweet.
Jer was the only one of us to play in the main event, so you should take it.
Okay, here is my story. My name is Jeremy, and this is my story. I
Come with me while I sing you the song of GP Vancouver Modern.
well, I think
I can
you've
bark
got a
up
good
for
start
you.
there. You can
All
go
right, so-
ahead.
all right, go ahead.
No,
Keep
okay.
going.
No, so I came up with a great idea, a few months ago that I would go to GP Vancouver and I would retrofit my legacy deck, which is Death and Taxes, to Modern, and I would like stream a bunch of testing, and it was going to be really cool. And then some people banned some cards.
Yeah, there were some bannings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Did that affect you positively or negatively?
well, negatively, because okay, here's the thing. In a metagame that is dominated.
Paul just popped Treasure Cruise up onto the
Yep.
screen.
In a metagame that is dominated by blue-red Delver decks that want to draw a ton of cards and play a ton of like burn and all this kind of stuff, Thalia is a really good card.
Right.
Spirit of the Labyrinth is a really good card.
Now, Thalia is basically like you have to pay 1 more for everything you do, correct?
1 more for every non-creature spell.
So, burn deck, so hosed. And Spirit of the Labyrinth is players can't search libraries?
Players can't draw cards.
Oh, can't draw extra cards.
Well, each player can only draw 1 card on his or her turn.
Right.
So,
you have to play fair.
yeah, that's
You can still draw 1 card on your opponent's turn.
Yes.
But only 1 card.
yeah.
So, yeah.
So these cards are much better in a metagame that is dominated by Blue-Red Delver, which was the most popular deck. So I was like, yes, we're doing this. death and taxes, go into the GP. And then those bannings happened. I was like, well...
So they didn't technically affect your deck, but what they did was make everybody change away from decks that were not good, not well matched against your deck.
Right. So I started casting around for other things to play. And I went through, I was originally like, okay, maybe I'll play black-white tokens. And then the builds that I was looking at all had like Bitter Blossom, and I was like, I don't want to get Bitter Blossom right now.
You could have asked to borrow mine.
Well, I needed four of them.
Okay, well, you could have borrowed one from me.
And I guess the other thing is that I was a little bit hedgy on acquiring modern staples when Modern Masters 2 is coming out really soon. And so I kind of felt the same way about cards like Dark Confidant. Like, I don't want to get them right now. I don't want to trade for them super aggressively right now until I know what's in Modern Masters 2.
Right.
So basically I was sort of casting around. I was like, well, I was disassembling my Elf Highlander deck at the time. And I was like, you know what I could do? I could make elves in Modern. That could work. And it does. It goes off on like turn 3 and goes infinite and wins basically every time against Mr. Goldfish. But against an opponent who is actually trying to disrupt you, it is very difficult to go off with elves right now.
It's worth mentioning for those who also watch our series Friday nights, which is probably most of you, the conversation with James and Cam in the most recent episode where Cam's like, oh, maybe Death and Taxes, maybe Affinity. That was all very much inspired directly by Jer. It was originally going to be Jer.
Yeah.
But we weren't sure how that was going to play out because you're moving soon.
Right. So, well, originally the plan was that I would be moving...
Drawn from life, that scene.
Originally the plan was I would be moving in a week.
Yeah.
Like
a week from
now.
Yeah.
And so I didn't think I'd be able to go to the GP. And so the bit that was originally for me was given to Cam, but
that didn't affect anything anyway.
But then,
well, you'll see in the episode. Anyway,
but then my move date was moved back, so I did get to go to the GP. Also, there was that. I didn't think I was going to go for a while. Anyway, so switched to elves for a bit and was very disappointed by my results with elves. And so eventually I was like, you know what? When push comes to shove, you play what you know. I'm going to go back to Death and Taxes.
All right, so to recount that in bardic form, modern banning screwed up the meta. Elves weren't any better.
I like it.
Nice.
Death and Taxes is all about making your opponent play fair, but also disrupting the things that you expect to find in the metagame. And so I did spend a bunch of time modifying Death and Taxes as it is played in Modern. So normal Modern Death and Taxes plays a bunch of Blade Splicers and a bunch of Restoration Angels to blink Blade Splicers, I guess. It was our Legacy Death and Taxes plays Flicker Wisp, which is... the best card in the deck. Flicker Wisp isn't
that in Modern?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It was in Modern Masters 1 too.
Yeah, I know. But why?
So here's what I'm saying. Legacy Death and Taxes plays Flicker Wisp.
Okay.
Modern Death and Taxes. So Flicker Wisp is 3/1 for 3 flying. When it comes into play, exile a permanent until the end of the next end step.
Right.
Okay. So Legacy D&T plays 3 or 4 Flicker Wisps. Modern D&T adds Blade Splicer, which plays well with Flicker Wisp because you
get extra golems.
Yeah, you can blink the Blade Splicer to get more golems. And it added Restoration Angel for another effect that blinks Blade Splicer, basically. Now, the thing is, Flicker Wisp is has way better things to do than blink Blade Splicers. It is easily the best card in the deck. It's sort of like a charm. It can do basically anything. Anything that you want to get rid of. You want a Batterskull to be unequipped? Boom. It gets the Batterskull unequipped. You want your creature to be freed from Vidalcan shackles? Boom. Your creature is freed from Vidalcan shackles.
You just need a blocker out of the way so you can kill them?
Right, exactly. It'll do that too.
By the way, you can get your thing back from Vidalcan shackles. I know this only because you told me about it.
Yeah.
Because you Aether Vial in the Flicker Wisp when you have priority at the end of their main phase so that you get it back on their end step. Because if you do that during their end step, you don't get it back until your end step.
Or in response to them activating Vidalcan shackles, you've got to have Aether Vial to make this work, but you vial in Flicker Wisp and blink out one of their islands so that on the resolution of the effect, they don't have enough islands to take your creature.
I've also had people vial in Flicker Wisp on my upkeep to blink out lands.
Yep. that also is a thing that is
to put Storm off.
Yeah, that's also a thing that is super fun to do.
Wow, Flicker Wisp
Yeah,
is
Death and Taxes is all about making your opponent play fair.
Flicker Wisp is probably, as I say, the best card in the deck. So I think it has way better things to do than Blink the stupid Golem Maker. And Restoration Angel is 4 mana, which in a deck that is mono white but runs like a full 8 colorless land destruction lands.
right.
Is actually hard to cast.
Yeah, like the 4 mana is difficult to get to a lot of the time because you are sacking your lands to blow up their lands. I didn't like Resto Angel in that deck, so I modified the deck significantly and brought the curve down. And I added a Blood Moon because like that card is good in Modern, as it turns out.
That's a super hateful. Real quick, for those who are unaware, Blood Moon is a red enchantment for, I believe, 2 and a red.
Yep.
And it says that non-basic lands, there's a surprising number of them in Modern, are mountains.
Yep.
so it doesn't really affect your planes.
It doesn't affect my planes.
It doesn't affect your opponent's islands, but if they have a watery grave or a... anything. Fetch lands also.
Yeah,
If they
fetch.
Yeah, like a fetch land you can't tap and sack it to get...
Because it's not a fetch land,
because
it's
it's
a mountain.
Yeah.
So
So you're effed.
Yeah.
So yeah, Abzan is a good example of a deck that does not play red and plays like 90% non-basic lands. And that deck is just hosed by Blood Moon. It can't do anything. If you were watching the Pro Tour, you probably saw an Amulet Bloom deck get hosed by Blood Moon, in fact, completely hosed by Blood Moon.
Right, because it turns their Inkmoth nexuses or whatever they are.
It turns all their colored mana into mountains too, so they just can't play spells.
Right.
So yeah, it's a super, super powerful card when it is contextually good. So I literally put in 6 red mana sources, 2
Just for Blood Moon.
2 fetches plus 4 shock lands, just to play Blood Moon, and also Chain to the Rocks as a
nice.
as a 5th path to exile.
Why not?
I had an extra one of each in the sideboard to bring in against various matches. Anyway, my deck is on tappedout.net. My username is Jeremy Petter, all one word. You can look up my deck there if you want to see it.
So the advantage of doing this is it didn't cost you a whole lot to make these deck mods, did it?
No, not really. I mean, I had most of Legacy Death and Taxes. I actually had most of the bits of Modern Death and Taxes too. So Modern Death and Taxes, it runs the stuff I mentioned. It also has run like Hero of Blade Hold and other like sort of more aggressive threats. Death and Taxes just sort of wants to slowly squeeze the life out of your opponent as it beats them very slowly to death with 3/3s.
How fair.
Yeah.
So before we go on to...
How do you...
I was going to say, before you hear from the rest of us about scrubbing out of side events,
How did you do?
real quick, like, if you can remember anything round by round...
Oh, yeah. I mean,
how did your event go?
So first round, I was against Abzan,
Nice.
and I got him with Blood Moon.
There you go.
Twice, and it was disgusting. I mean, when the key event of that game was he tapped out to play a Batterskull with 2 Tarmogoyfs already in play.
Whoa.
And I then, what was it? Like end of turn, vial out Leonin Arbiter, which is that is the players can't search libraries unless they pay 2. So he was
Right.
obviously tapped out. So end of turn, flashed out Leonin Arbiter with Ether Vial, then used Ghost Quarter to blow up his land. Now Ghost Quarter, they normally get to search for a basic land.
But he couldn't pay to do that.
Right, so I used that to blow up his only basic swamp and then cast Blood Moon.
So he was done casting spells.
So he was basically done casting spells, but he still had 2 Tarmogoyfs and a Batterskull in play,
Which is not bad.
which is pretty good.
That's
So-
not nothing.
It's a
Yeah.
D-sitch.
Yeah.
But the other metagame call that I made against Abzan in my deck was that I played 4 Mirren Crusaders, which have protection from black and green, which is pretty good against Abzan.
Block all day, block all night. Come at me, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I got there eventually with that one. It required some, because he could still equip the Batterskull, right? So it took a little bit of creative path to exiling and whatnot to avoid getting killed there. But so there was that one, and then I played against someone playing this weird Jeskai Tokens Brew, like Jeskai Ascension Tokens Brew, who he was notable in managing to top deck 3 Lingering Souls in a row.
Whoa!
At one point in the game, and Lingering Souls with my deck is the card you do not want to see, and I have specific hate answers to it, but it is oppressively scary.
So wait, that means that he got to use the non-creature spell to make all his previous Lingering Souls tokens bigger.
So what he literally did was he cast Lingering Souls, and then like looted and threw away Zealous Persecution, which is a beating for my deck. And I was like, why would he throw away Zealous Persecution? I don't understand. With Jeskai Ascension, right? Or Jeskai Ascendancy. And then he flashes back his Lingering Souls, draws, throws a Lingering Souls in the bin, and I'm like, okay, then casts another Lingering Souls from his hand. I'm like, what is going on?
Oh no.
So yeah, that was like a game, the first game against him, which I lost, but I lost, but I was supposed to win that game. Like, you know, I was like so close, and then he just top decked 3 Lingering Souls to kill me. But that was disgusting, and I beat him in the next 2 games fairly quickly. The third match, I'm trying to even remember third match was just straight up Twin, which is, I think I have a good matchup against, just because of, again, like they play a lot of non-creature spells. Thalia is really good, things like that.
Twin, short for Splinter Twin, by the way.
Yeah.
And then that's when things started to go bad. So I next had a feature match, which was cool. I got to go with,
because they start doing coverage at round 4 because all of the pros have buys typically until round 4.
Yeah. And I was playing against, I think, Nick, who is a player from Vancouver. He was playing Burn, and he beat me, but I really felt like I punted those matches, or those games, both of them. The first one, he played a Monastery Swiftspear on turn 1, and I had a Path to Exile in hand, but I held off using it because I thought I could get more value out of it after I played a Leonin Arbiter on turn 2,
right?
Which was bad, because actually, of course, I would just play the Arbiter and then he would kill it. So and then attack me anyway. So
right.
Yeah, I took a bunch of damage that I didn't need to that game, and he was top decking to kill me by the end of it, and so, you know, it's very likely that I could have, you know, got in that extra turn or 2, and maybe I had 2 main deck Core Firewalkers against Burn, and I never saw them in that match. And Core Firewalker is a complete beating against that deck. It is
pro red.
It's got, well, and it also, you gain 1 life anytime a player casts a red spell. So it's very hard for Burn to beat a Firewalker.
Right, they can't kill it, and even if they try to kill you, you are gaining life.
Yeah.
I'd like to drop a pin at this point in the conversation that maybe we can return later.
Yeah. Well, wait, how was your overall record? So we don't keep people on tenterhooks.
Fair. My overall record was I ended up winning 4 before losing the 3. That I needed to die on to come back to. So,
all right. So to sum up your experience one more time in Bardic song, modified your deck almost free, still only went 4 and 3.
Yeah, I feel like,
oh, come on, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's good.
I feel like I was doing well until I started to get really tired, and that was sort of the issue that I hit. Was like after around round 5, I was just exhausted, and I was like.
It's hard to play Magic all day.
Yeah, but I think that if there's one thing that I can give you for like advice for if you ever go to a GP, first of all, assume that you're attending the day before it starts, like the Friday. Assume that you're going and like play grinders and stuff, because they're actually like great value. You get to test out your deck in the metagame, etc. And then go to bed early. Go to bed at as early
10?
as you possibly can, and just get a good sleep.
Because the player meeting's at 9, right?
Yeah, the player meeting is early, and
you want a solid 8 hours.
Yeah, or more. And I had already been in Vancouver a couple of days and been like I already had been keeping late nights, and I am even now like taking naps in the mid-afternoon to try and recover from how exhausted I was all weekend. So yeah, I think that was actually the worst possible thing, because thinking back to my last round, I was making dumb play errors, like almost judge call worthy dumb play errors, and yeah, it was just not. That I think that's the. Had I been fully cognizant throughout the entire event, things could have gone a lot better.
How about you, Cam? How'd your event go?
Oh, well, I didn't participate in the main event, but the reason I wanted to talk about Core Firewalkers was that I did bring my Storm deck, which is Storm. If you're not familiar with Modern Storm, it plays a lot of cards, then blows you up, usually on turn 3.
It's a deck that loves Thalia a lot.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, I was playing against a fan, just on the side, who had a Thalia, and I blew her up with a lightning bolt, and that felt really good.
Yeah.
Bloody vengeance. And then he played out 2 Core Firewalkers,
Okay.
and I stormed out through it,
Ooh.
and I got him for something like 200.
That's a hell of a storm.
Yeah. It felt really good.
Yeah.
It felt really good. I mean, like, he was really bored after about 15 minutes of storming, but
That's not his problem.
Yeah.
Or that's not your problem. That's his problem.
that's why I wanted to talk about Core Firewalker. It is possible for Red to get there through Core Firewalker.
Yeah. While Jared was doing the main event on the Saturday, some of the others were doing drafts, and actually no, but let's go right to that. Cam, please tell me about this mono blue deck, the deck that deserved better.
Okay, so basically I'm playing in a draft pod with James and Graham and our friend Lee Sharp. No, you weren't there.
I was not in that
No,
pod.
it was just with James and Lee Sharp from Midgo. And I opened my first pack, and it has a, what is it? The Executioner. This is a Fate Reforged Cons draft.
Right.
It has, I'm looking through it, and it has 4 or 5 outstanding, easily first pickable black commons and uncommons. It has the Orcish Archer.
Yep.
It has the instant speed removal spell.
Orc Shot.
Shot.
Reach of Shadows.
Reach of Shadows.
Yep.
It has
The Merciless Executioner. You
Merciless Executioner. Just good, usable pieces of removal.
said. Right.
And then it has Silumgar.
Ah.
And I'm looking at it going, I do not want to pick any of these black cards because the next 3 people who look at this pack are going to be in black,
Right.
basically.
Fair.
And then I realized that Silumgar is the only blue card in the pack.
That if that's not sending a signal, I don't know what is.
Yeah, so I first picked Silumgar.
He's a good. He's a good first pick.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah, but also it gave me the opportunity to cut blue. And then I get past another card, and the only blue card in the pack is a Lotus Path Djinn
Okay.
at common.
That seems good.
I'm listening.
And there were other good uncommons, right? Other good, easily pickable
Yeah.
uncommons, but I cut blue again for a totally playable common. And at that point, I just started cutting blue exclusively.
like hard. Yeah, basically, you're
even-
like, give me the blue card.
Well, even if it was a marginal blue card at that point. And then in pack 2, I had my pick of blue cards.
Right, because everybody's like, well, I'm not in blue.
Yeah,
Because
so-
like someone else is hard and or like probably people figured a couple other people were hard in blue if they're not
Well-
seeing any blue cards go by.
Either that or people are just not, like at that point, they're hard in another color, right? And even if you aren't...
Yeah, but I mean,
particular-
it's like cons, or it's like in this block you could be like pretty hard into like, you know, Obzon and then start seeing good blue cards go by and be like, yeah, I could probably pick up a couple, right? Because it's easy to move over one other color.
I suppose so. But anyways, I was able to pick up like a Pearl Lake Ancient third pick
yeah.
in pack 2. And after that, it was just a matter of like assembling from my 30-ish blue cards a mono blue deck that had 3 Crippling Chills, 2 Lotus Path Djinns, 2 Whirlwind Adepts, which I like.
Yeah. No, they're good.
I like that card because there is a lot of removal in this format.
General consensus from pro level players as well is that Whirlwind Adept is good now.
Yeah.
Like
well, with
was not amazing before, but now is like a solid pick in FKK.
Yeah, like in normal situations, I usually pick up a Temur Battle Rage, just on the assumption that I'll see a Whirlwind Adept at some point later on, because knocking someone for 10 out of nowhere is real nice. But
Yeah, I've been killed by that.
yeah, so I had Pearl Lake Ancient Silumgar, a couple of Whirlwind Adepts, a couple of Lotus Path Djinns, the whatever the newest equivalent of Mistraven is, a couple of Cancels, a couple of Disdainful Strokes, Crippling Chills, Refocuses, refocus, debilitating injuries, basically like this array of tricks and good creatures and like really unrivalable bombs. And then I also had the luxury of playing just like 3 swamps and then like 13 islands, right?
Sounds
Because
good to me.
I probably could have just cut the black, except for Silumgar, and kept around a couple of swamps, because by the time you're playing Silumgar, you've seen half of your deck already. And I crush Lee in game 1. Just like,
Had Silumgar in hand, didn't need him.
yeah, no, it was just like, it felt good. There have been beatings and there have been beatings. And this was a third unheard of type, and I love Lee. He's a really good guy, but man. And then in game 2, my deck was really convinced it only needed 2 land.
I hate that.
I kept a 2-lander, and my deck is like, no, we're good. Have another Whirlwind Adept.
I had a game like that.
And I think I lasted until about turn 9.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I held on real good. And game 3, my deck got the message. And
I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll give
Yeah.
you lots of land.
And by the time Graham came by
Yeah, I remember
to look
this.
at the board state, I had 15 land in play.
I think so. No, you had 14 in play and 1 in hand
Right.
because you were pretending.
Yeah, I was pretending.
You were like, oh, maybe I have something. No,
Yeah, it's like
just
if I had
another
had
island.
something, I probably would have played at this point. And it was single a limb. So the greatest draft deck that ever was came and went with a sigh, and then got left on the table.
What's up?
That was sort of the story of my draft decks for the weekend.
Yeah.
I had almost a similar thing to you in my last draft, which was almost mono green, because again I was the only green drafter at the table, and certainly no one else was in Abzan, so I had all the uncommons you want. I had both of the Abzan legendary creatures, like I had Darogar and Anafenza, both of them, all of it. And
Dagatar, you mean?
Dagatar, sorry.
Wow.
I had both of them, and I had just like all the like the Abzan guides and what are the guys that come in and put counters on guys?
Armament Core.
Armament cores. I had those guys. I had the charm. I had like the whole set. It was great. I had some other great green rares, and first game never got to 3 mana. Second game mulled to 4. Got there. Third game, exactly the same as your third game, just like nothing but lands. And goodbye.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had a similar experience in a single limb draft. It was a happy hour draft, though, so I still feel like I did okay. But yeah, I drafted, it wasn't an amazing white-black Warriors deck, but it was actually pretty good, right? Like, it was definitely decent, and it deserved better. But the first game, I got completely bricked on 3 land and basically was out of it pretty quick, right? Because I couldn't play spells. And I was playing against a sort of a teamer deck, and just eventually I could play like a 2-drop. and I didn't I only had like 2 morphs in the deck, so I couldn't even play any of those. Anyhow, the second game of this match, I was doing really well, and then 6 land in a row. Meanwhile, he started to really go off, and so I was out. And I was like, I could have done better deck. I actually kept it together. Like, just took out the land and gave them back to the land station, but I kept the deck together so I can play it against somebody else, because I think it deserves better than that.
I want to tell you about a Black-White Warriors deck that I made that was... I lost in round 2 of the draft, but it was the craziest deck.
Oh, that was an amazing Black White Warriors deck.
I got a Chief of the... I hummed and hawed over it because I picked a Chief of the Edge out of the cons pack, I think, over a very good card, but I was like, I think I really need the Chief in this deck. And then I got a Chief of the Scale a couple picks later, and then I got another Chief of the Edge way later in that pack.
What?
And so I had one game. This is my second favorite game of the event that I played. One game where I played a Mardu Hateblade on turn 1, and then a Sultai Emissary on turn 2. Every single opponent, by the way, when facing this deck, leaned over to the Sultai Emissary and went, "Oh, he's a warrior." Pro tip, that guy's a warrior, and it's really relevant. And then Chief of the Edge, and then attacked, and then he traded for the Sultai Emissary, who manifests when he dies, and the manifest was the Chief of the Edge, or sorry, the Chief of the Scale. So I had a Chief of the Edge in play. Then next turn I untap and draw my second Chief of the Edge. And so I'm like, play this second Chief of the Edge? My opponent's like, oh, geez. And I'm like, flip up my Chief of the Scale, go to attacks, and my opponent's like, I'm just going to concede right here. I don't need to see any more of this.
That's fair.
By far my favorite deck of the week or of the weekend was, it was the one where I first picked Ugin, but
This deck is nuts.
hear me out.
Okay.
So I'm drafting, and I'm in green blue basically, and fairly late I get an Ice Feather Aven, and I'm like, okay, I'm in the right place.
All right.
Right? Good. We're set. And then it was like the pack or two after Ice Feather Aven, I see Trail of Mystery.
Okay.
And it had like some other good card. Like it was like actually some other decent card alongside it, like the Mist Raven or something. And I was like,
those aren't the same set, but whatever.
I don't recall exactly what it was, but so I'm like, I see this card, I might as well just take it, because there's always a chance I could get a Secret Plans or something later. I'm in the right colors. Sure, I'll take this Trail of Mystery. We keep on going into the next pack, and third pick in the next pack is a foil Trail of Mystery. And now, because I knew I had the first one, I was sort of already like hedging a little bit, but at that point I'm like, yes, we are all morphs all the time. And I already had
Double down.
Yeah, I already had like a couple, like I had Woolly Loxodon and like the normal stuff that you would want in a blue-green deck, but I'm just like, yeah, no, we're going hard for morphs. And so by the end of the draft, I had 2 Trail of Mystery, an Ugin, and like 10 morphs in my deck or something ridiculous like
Dear
that.
God.
Like, and also like the blue card that lets you like scry 2 and morph one of them.
Right into being.
And the Ethereal Ambush to get him sometimes. And as it turns out, Ugin. He destroys or exiles permanents that are colored permanents.
Yep.
Morphs are not colored.
Nope.
So Ugin plays real well with a big army of morphs.
So it's play Ugin, wipe your board.
Right. Attack you
with all these 2/2 colorless
with all these
creatures.
2/2 colorless creatures.
Which I can now start turning up.
If I want to.
Yeah.
That was one line of play. But also, as it turns out, Trail of Mystery, which when you turn up face down card, you get to search your library for land and put it in your hand. Really good for making sure you can cast Ugin.
When you cast it, you get to do that. When you turn it up, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as it turns out, you can.
I attack you with my 2/2. Okay, no blocks. I turn up my Willy Loxodon. It is 8 power.
Yeah.
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 Really strong.
Very, very strong. It makes sure Ugin gets cast on time.
My favorite play, because I mentioned that the Chief was my second favorite play. My favorite play was it was a black-white deck, not nearly as streamlined or warriors as the other one that I had, but it was a very, very good black-white deck. And then I noticed that no one was in Abzan, and I was like, all right, screw it, I'm taking this Armament Core. I guess maybe I'll splash it. I'll splash a little bit. And then third pack, I opened Dune Blast, and I'm like, welp, Dune Blast, get in. And let me tell you, you only need 2 cards to win a game of Khans of Tarkir draft, and that is Dune Blast and Swarm of Bloodflies. They come into play with 2 +1/+1 counters, and anytime a creature dies, they get another +1/+1 counter. So I 7 for 1 with Dune Blast, 2 of which were mine. So I get 5 of my opponent's creatures, 2 of my own creatures, and then put 7 more counters on.
It's Dune Blast, Paul.
Dune.
Like the DUNE. Like
Yeah.
the sand.
Put 7 more counters on the Swarm of Bloodflies, and then it's a 9/9 flyer, and my opponent's at 18, so I hit him to 9, and then he draws his card for the turn and goes, no, I can't beat that. That was sweet. I did that twice.
What's the 2-drop black creature? If you attacked this turn, target opponent discards a card.
Mardu Skullhunter.
Mardu Skullhunter. Now, this was my personal favorite play of the weekend. Did not actually happen at the GP. It happened at GP Coastal Renaissance, which is, of course, we saw a bunch. That's the ferry that we took back to Victoria. We saw a bunch of our friends from YJ and a bunch of players in the local Magic community, and we decided, hey, let's draft. And so he did, and I drafted a Mardu deck, and I was playing against an opponent and sent in some attacks, and he had 2 cards in hand, and I had 2 Mardu Skull Hunters. So I said, all right, after attacking, play this Mardu Skull Hunter, and he's like, okay, and like leans over, sort of evaluating which card he's going to pitch, and like asks the friend, he's like, which one of these would you pitch? And then his friend's like, I think that one. And he's like, all right. So he's like, okay. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to play another Mardu Skull Hunter. which might make it into a Friday nights because it was that funny.
So
I felt bad about it afterwards, but it was pretty funny.
We didn't. I guess we didn't talk necessarily about the GP itself that much. I mean, we talked about GP Portland when we came back from that, and it was great. It was a well-run GP. The venue was downtown, which was nice and close to a lot of food. All GPs have now adopted the prize wall, no matter who seems to be organizing it, which is great. I'm totally in favor of that because you can try and save up for something, or if you're like me, by the time you turn in your stuff, all the Funko figures have sold out, so you just get a pile of Cons of Tarkir boosters, which
But I mean, that's pretty sweet.
Totally fine with.
You had 11,000 tickets. You could have gotten a box of what? Revised
for 11,000 tickets. You get sorry. So the prize breakdown for a draft was if you lose in round 1, you get 10 tickets, which is 1 booster. If you lose in round 2, you get 2 tickets, or 2 boosters, and the tickets are worth 10 points.
Each.
So if you get 11,000 points, which is 1,000,
100 tickets.
yeah. So 1,100 booster packs basically.
You
Yeah.
can get a box of Revised.
You have to pool.
I
for
feel
that.
like if you ground out tickets all weekend and you had like 4 friends who did it,
You'd
you
have
could
to go in on
probably
it, yeah.
get a box of Revised.
So yeah, the event was great, and we had a blast. But since you mentioned GP Coastal Renaissance, and since we were talking about it on Twitter, just real briefly before we go, Cam, could you talk about your deck from the boat?
Oh, well, what happened? What did I
it was
first?
a team draft.
Yeah.
So everybody knew that they were going to have like slightly worse decks because you didn't want to pass your opponent's bombs, like good cards.
Yeah.
And so Cam and Kathleen and I were on a team, and after we finished the draft, or like partway through the draft, someone's like, "Who's happy with their decks?" And all of our
that's what I
opponents,
said.
yeah, all of our opponents raised their hands.
None of us do.
And then we finish the draft and we go to deck construction, and Cam starts showing me what's in his deck, and I just like nod and smile, and I'm like, Cam, you do what you want. That's cool.
You be you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you be you. Well, you guys passed me garbage, and
We managed to put together pretty decent decks.
Oh, that's nice.
I love your deck.
My best card was a rotting mastodon.
That's your best. Wow.
Or it could have also been the Kieran. That was a pretty good card.
Alabaster Kieran's really good.
Alabaster Kieran was a very good card. I
was
also
your
had like a Mardu Hateblade, which is like a fairly, good card.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. And then I had an Empty the Pits, which is, I think, a legacy playable card.
I know when James killed your Alabaster Kieran, you're like, that was my bomb.
Yeah. What else? I had a Salt Road Patrol, which is also decent, and a Disowned Ancestor. Basically, I had anything that had a toughness of at least 4 times its power, sometimes infinitely more than its power.
But the combo,
Yeah, was
Altar of the Brood.
the ideal combo that I never pulled off was what is the one from Fate that is
Ghastly Conscription.
Ghastly Conscription into Altar of the Brood. Next turn, Empty the Pits into Altar of the Brood, milling my opponent as God intended.
Altar of the Brood mills them for 1 for every time a permanent enters the battlefield under your control. A permanent, could be a land. Ghastly Conscription, you exile, you take all the creatures from someone's graveyard, then you manifest them all, so they enter the battlefield. And then Empty the Pits is you create a whole bunch of zombie tokens with Delve.
Yeah.
And also, you never got to cast it, the Retribution of the Ancients.
Is that what or Rally the Ancestors?
Sorry, Rally the Ancestors.
Yeah, which is awful.
Which
That's
is
a
really bad.
I saw that going around, and I was like, don't even
But
worry
you
about
could-
taking this.
You could bring back all the permanents again.
Yeah. So basically, the plan was just to keep trading off my terrible cards for his really good cards.
and
that-
just like grind the game out.
Yeah, and I also had a couple of what's the one white-black do X damage to your
Harsh
opponent?
Sustenance.
Harsh Sustenance. I had like 2 of those.
I wanted more
so
of
I went
those.
from being at 2 life, 1 turn against James, to being at like 12.
The best part is that you had this amazing potential for ridiculous mill combos with Alter the Brood, and you just killed James by playing things with toughness.
Yeah.
He was like, I can't get past all your guys with big butts.
Now, to be fair, if I had been playing UCAM, I would have had a very hard time dealing with that situation too, right? Like, that's like a viable strategy in this format, which is why people like this draft format so much. You can do wacky shit, and it actually sometimes works.
Yeah, I broke the format and James.
Yeah, James.
And it was great.
James lost. So there, and we won. We won our team draft.
Yeah,
Go
good.
Team GP Coastal Renaissance.
Yep.
That's the name of the boat. In case that wasn't clear.
I said that.
I know.
All right, we should get going.
We should.
'cause-
So, yeah, that was GP Vancouver, such as it was for us, at least. It was a ton of fun. And once again, like we say this every time, but if you have a chance to go to a GP near your area, you really should, because they're super,
Even if
super
it's
fun.
just for like side events, like if you just come in one afternoon, because it's not like you need to pay anything to like sign up. Like,
There was a ton of people there who came by and said hi and said that they enjoyed the show, and asked if they were playing in the main event, and by and large they were not, actually.
But it's lovely to meet people in person. And
Yeah.
if you came up to us and said, hi, thank you so much. It's wonderful to meet our fans.
Yeah. We signed a lot of playmats and copies of Bump in the Night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, we met some forum members too. I can't remember who was the lady that we met who was sitting in the draft pod beside us. She had like a green tank top on. I don't remember her username.
I don't think I was there for that one, or I was, and I'm being awful.
Anyhow, thanks to everybody who came up to us and said hi, who were from the forums and the chat and everything, and it was great.
Yes.
You wanted to say something? Or?
No, I was just gonna say, if you do go to a GP, make sure you get good amount of sleep the night before.
And water.
Yeah. Water.
And hand sanitizer.
Just wash your hands, yeah.
Yeah, just wash your damn hands.
On that note, our ability to bring you this podcast is thanks to the wonderful support of viewers like yourselves on our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. The roofers love it. We love it. And hopefully you enjoy it as well. And thank you so much for listening and watching. And we will talk to you next time.